Yeah, a lot of love for this Phillies team making the All-Star game. I wanted to ask you as we wrap up today's show, if there was one player, I think all 7 of these guys were pretty darn deserving of being All-Stars. If I were to pick one, just based on the injury time that he's missed, like if I were to keep a guy off the All-Star team, it probably would have been Trey Turner. And I think Mookie Betts would have been the starter had he not gotten injured prior to, a few weeks ago. But I mean, 7 guys who feel like they're all really deserving of being on this team. If you had to pick one, that was the one that like was most important to you, doesn't necessarily have to be who's having the best season, but the one that felt like when you saw their name announced made you the happiest.
I think it's tough because, I love so many of these guys. Ranger Suarez, so happy for him. All the first timers, it's really special. But I think the one that leaps out to me is Alec Bohm, in that it feels like we've just been with him on this journey, because you see him wearing his emotions on his sleeves, and you can tell when he's frustrated. You can tell when he screws up. You can tell when he hates this place, and then later loves this place. So watching him develop and just work at his craft over third base defensively, and then work at his craft at the plate and get better and better until he's now reached a point where, in just a few years, he's gone from not really having his starting role locked down in stone to an all-star game, and having sort of followed along with him in these ups and downs. It makes it particularly cool to see somebody like that now reach this level and get recognized for it.
Sure. And I think that we've talked about Alec Bohm a ton prior to this season. And what Alec Bohm was to me was kind of maybe his pinnacle. And that's not a bad thing. I don't mean to say that he's a bad ball player or anything like that. Gaps hitter. Every team needs a gaps hitter, whether they're a power hitter or not. Like, you've almost pretty seamlessly gone from JT Realmuto being your doubles gaps hitter to Alec Bohm being your gaps hitter. Every team needs a guy like
30 doubles right now.
It's incredible. 30 doubles, 70 RBI. What he's matured into, I think on both sides of the ball, he has matured into a hitter who trusts himself at the plate, who has a really good grasp on the strike zone now, and somebody who, if you make a mistake, he is going to make you pay. And this is a guy that really conceivably could end up with 105, 110, 115 RBI and hit less than 20, 25 home runs. You know what I mean? Like, when you see those type of numbers in the RBI category, more times than not, you're seeing 32, 38, closing in on 40 type of home run hitters. The maturation that he has made offensively is really, really impressive. And then defensively, I don't think Alec Bohm's ever going to be a Gold Glove defender. I don't think he's ever going to be amongst the upper echelon. You're never going to compare the guy to the Nolan Arenados, the Manny Machados, the Ryan McMahons, the Brian Hayeses of defense, right? But to become what I believe now is an above average defender, that to me is leaps and bounds, almost more important. I shouldn't say more important, probably equally important as his offensive production, because he's not a butcher defensively anymore. There's times where I go, "Ooh, don't like the way you took that route," but he makes the play, right? He makes these weird, like, crane type snags sometimes, and I go, "What are you doing, dude?" But he makes the play. Yeah. I think defensively, his improvement is just as impressive as his offensive improvement.
Yeah, I think so too. I remember watching him early on, and it's just like, what is this sort of tall, lumbering guy? How's he ever going to become a serviceable third baseman? Like, I don't understand this project, but he did it. I mean, it's not an easy thing for a guy his size to make these nice plays on ground balls. As you mentioned, Tyler, sometimes the mechanics look a little unorthodox, but then also I can't count how many times you've seen him make a leaping grab up in the air.
Yeah,
that really only somebody his size could make on like a line drive that would go over most third basemen's heads. So
yeah,
It's really been a lot of fun watching him develop. As the Boz notes, it has a lot to do with that 15 pounds of off-season muscle,
Possibly, yeah.
which may or may not have been a real thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Range
range has improved. Range has improved. Arm has improved. And I think more importantly, defensively, so I've never played third base. I am left-handed, never had, and quite frankly, even if I were right-handed, I don't think I would have had any interest in playing third base. Kind of a scary position, if we're being honest. And you could go, oh, Tyler, grow up. Kind of a scary position to play. I think he's matured to a guy who is confident in himself playing the third base position. And that in and of itself, I think the leaps that he's made defensively are huge. The leaps he's made offensively are statistically palpable. Really, really impressive season from Alec Bohm.
Yeah.
I will say, for me, the one guy that I almost feel personally excited for, because I've kind of almost been beating my chest a little bit about this guy for the last 2 years. And I don't mean to say like, haha, I told you so. I'm not in that business. But it feels like this guy has earned this right at this point, is Matt Strahm. And I know Strahm had a couple of rough outings last week. And when they talked about this on the broadcast, and they're 100% correct. Matt Strahm doesn't throw 99. Matt Strahm doesn't have that one devastating breaking ball. But what Matt Strahm does well is pound the zone, attack hitters. He's absolutely fearless. I mean, you can tell he's in, second and third, one out. He gets out of it, goes right at you, throws on your fists. He's willing to, throw the breaking ball in the dirt and trust his catcher. The Matt Strahm that you've seen this year, sans those 2 outings where, he struggled a little bit, but everybody's going to struggle a little bit, has been really, really special for this team because he just goes and attacks. And he is somebody that I looked at that signing last year and I went, that's a good signing. I think that that's kind of an underplayed signing a little bit. I think that I don't think he should be a starter. And then, of course, he was kind of forced into the starter role, and he was serviceable. But to have a position this year where Matt Strahm he knows his role, right? He knows he's your high leverage, non-save left-handed reliever. And for him to be able to go out and just attack the zone and throw a ton of strikes and trust his 94-mile-an-hour fastball and trust his breaking ball, Matt Strahm, to me, has become such a complete reliever. And I feel proud, if that's fair to say, of the Matt Strahm that we've seen this year.
Yeah. I think as fans, we should all be proud of Strahm. You just really love his attitude, right? The idea that, you need a starter for a number of games, I can do that. You need somebody to eat innings and be a long reliever, I'll do that, no problem. Just give me the ball. You need somebody to be exactly the role you outlined for him this year, Tyler. Your high leverage lefty. And he embraces that as well. And he excels in all those roles. I would argue that he was more than a serviceable starter I don't think he'd want him doing that for the full season, but for the games he started last year, I think he was more than serviceable. And he's been lights out in the role they have him in this year, with the exception of the last couple games. But that's coming on the heels of however many straight scoreless appearances, or appearances without an earned run anyway.
Right.
Because like ghost runners score and whatnot, or sometimes his inherited runners. It's been amazing. So every one of these guys, all 7, really have their own cool stories, whether it's, guys like Harper, who were identified as super duper stars early on and had to live up to those expectations, or whether it's these guys like Bohm and Strahm that really had to battle to get recognition. Every single one of them, up and down, deserves it and has a cool story behind it. And it's great to see them all recognized and go together as such a large contingent out to Arlington.
How about former first round pick Cast Off was, struggled in Colorado, struggled elsewhere, kind of found a little bit of footing in Cincinnati, almost had a deal to go pitch in Japan. And now he's a first-time All-Star in Jeff Hoffman. I mean, like you said, all these guys have different unique routes to get to this point. But I mean, barring if you want to say Trey Turner didn't play enough games to qualify, I think all of these guys are definitive all-stars this year.